So where were we? Oh yeah, moving and firing. Your tanks could move, generally tanks moved either 12 or 20, or it can move up to 24. If you move up to 12 and fired, you can fire all your weapons and you were -1 to hit. If you moved more than, I think there were actually 3 speeds you could use: slow, medium, and high. At slow, there were no modifiers. At medium, you could fire all your weapons at -1, and at flank speed, you could fire all your weapons at -2. Those modifiers were reciprocal. So if somebody was shooting at you and you were moving fast, they would also be -2 to hit you, but then +2 because you're a vehicle and easy to hit, so there would be no modifier. So you see how that works. Tanks could also be equipped with targeters, which gave them a +1 to hit. Most characters could also equip their weapons with targeters, which means you could run into a character with a melt-a-gun and a targeter on that melt-a-gun. Pretty dangerous. Let's see. Yeah, so the movement, fire, damage, everything about tanks was completely different. Tanks were much more usable. And once again, I say, you know, this is supposed to be like, what, 19 centuries into the future? I mean, we got tanks right now that can move 40 miles an hour and hit a dime at a few thousand yards. You don't think in like 19 more centuries they suddenly forgot how to make tanks that can fire on the move? I mean, come on, people. I mean, you new Warhammer players, why aren't you writing to GDW and say, what kind of morons are you? Have you no critical thought, process, or ability whatsoever? Or are you just trying to make a checkers game for miniatures so you can sell more shit? And you know what? What are they on? 6th edition now? The 6th ruination of the game, with each subsequent edition being more and more dumbed down and requiring that you turn off your critical thinking processes in order to enjoy playing the game without going, this is fucking ridiculous. 19 years in the future and tanks tanks can't even do what they can do now. So, you know, I will not play these new editions of Warhammer because they're not Warhammer. They're a cheap counterfeit is what they are of the original. Now, like most of you just, I know that most of you never played the original editions of Warhammer, and you just want to push your miniatures around and roll dice. I understand that. I'd like to do that too, but I can't do it with this game. Not unless I'm playing 2nd edition. I don't want to have just a dice off. I want to have some depth to it. You know, there was some real depth to Warhammer 40K 1st and 2nd edition. You know, where it depended on what gun you were firing. You know, at what target. You know, it was very realistic. Okay, so that was vehicles. You can add all kinds of modifiers to your vehicles. My Predators started out at 125 points, I think it is, and ended up being 300. And twin-link lasers and heavy bolters in the sponsons, just devastating. They were devastating. Hard to stop. But they did get blown up, you know. The blade would take out the first, but that second hit keeps coming through. Bam! You know, and plus graviton guns, pulsar rockets. I mean, just all kinds of nasty weapons. What else was different? As you can see, I'm on the 3rd video here, going into 45 minutes now, and I'm still like talking about differences without having to repeat myself too much, without, you know, just giving you some examples of play. Psychic powers. Now, I never was big on psychic powers. Now, I recognize that 19 centuries from now, they'll probably have unlocked the secrets of the human mind and be able to, you know, have these psychic powers objectively on the battlefield and a regular thing, you know. Personally, I'm more into like the technological aspect of Warhammer 40K and all the neat toys and the war gear thing, you know. My extent of psychers usually was I usually took a low-level psyker with a psychic hood just to give me a psychic umbrella so I can negate any powers that used against me, and whatever points that would have gone into offensive psychic powers simply go into my tanks. More beef for the tanks, you know, more defenses, something to kill with. I didn't like the riskiness of using a psyker. You put all those points in the psyker, and if you roll bad on the first round, you get sucked into the warp. Okay. That's not very reliable. I don't like that kind of unreliability when I'm spending points on an army. And so generally I limited myself to psychic defenses, which doesn't cost that much. Psychic hood for 20 bucks and some character to wear it. That's all you need. Low level psyker, you know. And you're not going to negate all the powers, but you know, you'll get a chance to negate them, and since he's got a chance to suck himself into the warp whenever he uses them, I think I have the better use of my points by sticking them in my tech, on my high tech, or in the case of Battle Sisters, purity seals. You know, if we're going to go psychic, I'm going to go spiritual, because I'm a believer, and well, you know, that's why I like the Sisters of Battle. They had the purity seals. You could add purity seals, like they would act as a refractor one time, things like that. Heal your wound one time, so you could load up your characters with purity seals and stuff. And as a Battle Sister, and it was really neat. See the versatility I'm talking about in this game? And each race was truly distinct. You know, like demons ran around emanating stuff. They didn't have to roll any dice. They didn't have to do anything. They just emanated it. And you better save or you'd be affected. You know, troops that won't fucking fight. We're not charging that fucker. Or troops that run away at the side. Oh, there's a demon. Oh, we failed. We're running. You know, and they're failing so bad. You got to get a character in with that squad to rally them. What else? Oh yeah, the types of psychic powers. I'll give you an example. If I did use a psychic power, one of my favorites was Gate. And this allowed you, they had this really neat miniature, it was like cardboard sat on a stand up, and it was like a little doorway with stars and stuff inside it, and a couple of droids, you know, wolves, and it looks like, you know, a starfield, like Chaos, right? And you cast your gate, you stick the first doorway in, you stick the first Chaos doorway in front of your assault squad, and you stick the second one up to 24 inches away in front of what you want to assault, and you run your assault squad through the gate and assault those guys. And you assault right out of a gate. So that was one of my favorite psychic powers. What are some other cool ones? I don't know, man. The psychers come in with these big template weapons like heavy flamers and then melt your mind and just all kinds of nasty stuff, you know. Tyranids had some natural psychic powers. Tyranids were the worst, man. I tell you, there was no fear like facing a Tyranid army, because they were just nasty, man. You mow them down forever, and those Termagants and Herbagants keep coming. And if they ever get in your line, you're toast. I never played Tyranids. I just suffered attacks by them numerous times. And if any army, I'm not afraid of Chaos. I'm not afraid of Orcs. As a Battle Sisters player, let's say, I'm not afraid of Chaos, Orcs, Space Marines. Nobody bothers me really, except for I hate Tyranids. Boy, now the new Tyranids aren't really, you know, they don't emanate very much. I mean, there's some emanation from them, but not like they used to. Hey, I'm not fighting that thing. I'm out of here, man. It's too ugly. You know, that's a squad 24 inches away. Same thing with demons. So yeah, it was a completely different game. There weren't reserves except for like Terminators could buy a teleport homer, and they start off the board, and then whenever you want, you didn't have to roll a die. You could put your your teleport homer anywhere on the board and bring your Terminators in around it. And that was pretty cool. What else? Template weapons. Any template weapon that missed deviated and blew up where it landed, which means quite often, even if you missed, you hit something. Grenades were especially tricky, because grenades would deviate possibly as far as you threw them, which means they could bounce back in your squad and blow up. Things like that. regular weapons could only deviate half of the range they were fired. So one of the greatest ways to use a Lehman Russ was to go park 1 inch away from an enemy vehicle and shoot your Devastator at it. Boom! You might blow yourself up too, but you can certainly blow up. You see, the minimum, if you're 6 inches away, the maximum deviation is 3 inches, so you're going to at least have some of that template on your target. And so it was a way for a lower hitting skill tank crews to hit better. Plus, just the ability to move your tanks and fire, even if it's at a +2. If you had a targeter, that was only a -1, because you get a modifier for your targeter, and so you can move at flank speed, fire all your weapons as a Space Marine tank, and still hit on 3s or better. Ow! So yeah, you know, my tanks were mean, and like I said, really hard to knock out. Flyers were treated differently. Flyers went up. And if you had certain weapons, you could shoot them if they were on Overwatch, and then they'd come down. And wherever they came down, that's where they came down, of course. But yeah, that pretty much outlines most of the differences, in that there was just a much wider variety of weapons and effects, modifiers, common sense ruled in the game. You know, as common sense as you get for like over-the-top high-tech 20 centuries in the future war game. You know, it's like, you gotta understand that the game, as I loved it, is over the top. It's just, you know, like, it's just filled with gadgets and all kinds of neat stuff. So anyway, I guess that's about it for the differences. You know, there are more, but that is the heart of the differences. Moving and firing of vehicles, hand-to-hand combat was much better. Cover was a modifier to hit rather than a cover save, which is like, you know, it's and defenses were cumulative, which makes so much more sense. I mean, if you've got a force field and power armor, you've got 2 saves, but not now. I guess nowadays you have to turn one of them off, because the other one won't work unless you turn one of them off. I mean, and you know what? They're just setting you up to bring in 1st and 2nd edition in again and make you buy the books a second time. They'll make enough changes so the old books won't work. You know, they're just trying to suck money out of you. So if anybody's tired of getting money sucked out of them, and after hearing what Warhammer used to be, is thinking about how beep the you know, the new version is, and how you're just being set up by all these new rules. They should put out a rule book and then put out new stuff to modify that rule book. You see? But Warhammer, they're greedy. They just want to suck all your money out, is what they want to do. They know you have extra money. You know, they know you're going to spend it on miniatures, the latest thing that's come out. So they just issue crap and make you buy the same thing over again with less quality in it. So if you're a new Warhammer player and the game I'm describing sounds a lot more intense and fun to play than the game you're playing right now, well, put a comment, put your opinion in the comment section. I want to start a group. I'm willing to game master it. I don't have the technology to host it. That's the problem. Or the miniatures. Right now I've started